to call the Concord School Committee meeting to order. I will note that we are being recorded and broadcast live. Before we start anything, I wanted to acknowledge that our community has experienced quite a tragedy in the past week with the loss of Chase Bjork, and I wanted to ask us to take a moment of silence just to acknowledge him. Thank you. I know this has been hard for everyone in our community. Our thoughts are with Chase's family, his friends, and the whole community. I'd also like to thank our administration for the incredible support that they have been providing to our students, families, and really the whole community. Laura can tell us a little bit more about, do you want to just mention some of the supports that are going on in the discussion coming up Monday night?
So there's obviously ongoing supports. We've been highly physically supported from Riverside Trauma Center, who's been on site with us since Friday and continues to be in ongoing contact with us, either present or by phone. So we're grateful for that, and that will continue for however long we need it. Our own counseling staff has risen just extraordinarily to the occasion, no more than on Friday, for sure. And that included all the K-8s coming over. The support from other local districts has been phenomenal. We've had counselors here from Carlisle, Lincoln, Sudbury, and Acton, Boxborough, and just the extensive efforts. And then, I have to give kudos to the staff in working with kids on a daily basis under pretty challenging circumstances with their own levels of grief and kids in grief. It's really been exceptional. So we're going to continue in that mode to offer supports. Monday night we're hosting a discussion, and I think really means a discussion of things for families and parents in they call it post-vention, apparently, in the jargon of the counseling world, the aftermath of this kind of suicidal event in the community, and really helping parents know what to do with their own children and support their kids, what to keep an eye on, what to respond to, how to talk to them, all aspects of it. So we're going to have a panel of different experts on the topic, and really want to have an open discussion of how to keep everybody well in the immediate. And then we're going to have a lot of long-term pieces to this, but that's where we are right now. So it's the silver lining has been this community's just unbelievable outreach and energy and true love that's just gone to all of us in the family, and that's going to be what gets us through the immediate challenge and pain of this. So, yeah.
Thank you for everything
thank you.
you're doing to put the support together.
That's a sincere thanks to this entire community, because I get a lot of just random emails thinking of you, thank you. It matters. It matters. So.
That's good.
Yeah.
Lori, where and when is that discussion on Monday?
Monday night at the high school at 7 o'clock in the Learning Commons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our thoughts are with everyone involved. And we will push forward in our work for the schools. So tonight, first of all, do we have any public comments? No. Then we actually get to switch to a very fun note,
Yes,
because in recognitions, we get to hear from some of the cast of the Concord Middle School musical. And I am very excited for this.
So they're coming off of at least 4 performances, maybe 5 last week, of Mary Poppins. I was able to see the show in the middle of the week, and it's just an extraordinarily talented group. So we're excited to get them in here, and I think I'm just as excited they're going to get recorded, so people who didn't get to the show can see them and give you a live performance here. Hi, everybody.
Well, hi, come on in, welcome.
Oh, wait, what?
I think they call this downstage.
Yeah.
Come downstairs.
Hi, Katie.
That's right. Welcome, everyone. Dr. Hunter has just been giving us a little bit of introduction to you. We know that you guys performed amazingly this weekend and this past week. We're so excited to have you here. and get a little clip of what went on. There is recording going on. It's behind them now.
Oh, hi.
Just thinking.
Yeah, maybe, why don't you go to the side so the camera can get you and we can still see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, face this way.
All right. Oh, okay.
No pressure, guys.
We just hit 3 viewers.
Yes.
That's a lot, man. That's 2 more than I have. I'm just kidding. No, I don't.
Alright.
Are we just like go? Okay.
You started.
No, I started.
Then you started.
No, she started.
Do we want to?
All right.
Guys.
We're very prepared.
That's not a word.
Of course it's a word. And unless I'm very much mistaken, I think it's a rather useful one. When trying to express oneself, it's frankly quite absurd to leaf through lengthy lexicons to find the perfect word. A little spontaneity keeps conversation keen. You need to find a way to say precisely what you mean. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious, if you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
But it doesn't mean anything. It can mean exactly what you want it to.
When we're chatting, simply quoting would suffice.
No, if they had heard this word, they might use it once or twice.
I'm sure the Roman Empire only entered the office because those Latin scholars never had a word like this. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. If you say it softly, the effect can be hypnosis. Check your breath before you speak in case it's halitosis. Yeah! Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You know, you can say it backwards, which is so good alive, possess it to the god for the creepers.
She may be tricky, but she's bloody good. So when the cat got her tongue, there's no need for dismay. Just summon up this word and then you've got a lot to say.
Take out those 18 consonants and 16 vowels as well, and put them in an order which is very hard to spell.
Here we go.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious, if you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilistic, supercalifragilistic, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Nicely done.
Very
good.
Love it.
What great energy. Could you each tell us your name and your grade and if you've done a lot of theater before or if this is new to you?
So
Can we, Sarah? Do you want us to say our part?
I would love to hear your part
Yes,
too.
that'd be
Yes,
great.
please.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my name's Sarah Kiefer. I'm an 8th grader. I do theater a lot, and I played Mary Poppins.
That's great.
Hi, I'm Beth Eisenberg. I've also been doing theater a lot. I played Miss Andrews, who wasn't really in the movie, but she was like the bad guy.
I believe they call her the Holy Terror.
Talk about it.
I'm Styles Hall. I'm also in 8th grade. I'd say I've done a good amount of theater, and I played Winifred.
My name's Ainsley Price. I'm also in 8th grade. I have a lot of theater background, I guess. And I played Mrs. Brill.
I'm Cara Ubaldino. I'm also in 8th grade.
We're all
This is my first show in middle school. I did a bunch in elementary school. And I was a banker and Jimmy Sweet.
I'm Tara Johnson. I'm also in 8th grade. I've been doing theater since 1st grade, a lot. And I was Jane Banks.
I'm Wilbur Moffitt. I am also in 8th grade, actually.
Whoa.
I have a fair amount of theater experience, and I was Von Hustler, who's like in
A German chap.
Yeah,
I think you're supposed to say it Ben Hustler, but
I'm Ben Lishkowski. I am in 8th grade.
I
pretend I know what I'm doing when I'm in shows, but I don't really do them much. And I was George Banks.
I'm Jack Gilmore. We're all in 8th grade.
Clarifying.
I played Bert in the play, and I've been in theater for a really long time. So.
Wow.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, this is fabulous. You all just hold yourself up here amazingly well. Clearly, theater has done great things for you all. And I will say that I'm sure the high school is really looking forward to your grade coming up, because this is incredible talent that's moving up to high school next year. Thank you. Just terrific. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Well done.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you. Have a good night.
They probably deserve a new theater.
Yes. Encore.
We'll work on it. Court, what do you think? Let's do that. Well, that is fun.
That's amazing.
Terrific. Well, now we'll hear a little bit more about the middle school. Justin, thank you for joining us tonight. We've all been dying to hear more about the reconfiguration with all the 6th graders at Peabody and the rest of Sanborn.
Of course.
We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Justin, if you could you give us, before you get into it, some broad context for people who are picking this up for the first time?
The reconfiguration, of course.
Thank you.
I do want to thank Tracy Morano, who just left. Waited until she left, which was odd. For all her support in the musical this year. We had many parents who really stepped up this year. Jen Jarvis was also our director of the musical, so I want to thank both of them for their support of the arts at the middle school.
I think Ms. Morano might be in her 10th year, so I.
Yep.
Please extend our thanks.
Yes,
I will,
definitely.
of course. Jen was not able to be here. Tracy was, though.
Yeah.
She just walked by. So the reconfiguration is something that Dr. Hunter and I looked at in our entry year, which was the 2017-2018 school year. We were able to really get a sense of the faculty and the staff at the middle school who had been engaged in that conversation in the past. The conversation simply is taking 2 6th, 7th, and 8th grade buildings and turning them into one 6th grade building and one 7th and 8th grade building. We looked at the Peabody campus for the 6th grade building. We looked at the Sanborn campus for the 7th and 8th grade building. We were able to do some due diligence and go out to communities that either had rethought how they did 6th grade as an entry point to middle school. And some of those communities, like Needham, actually had a 6th grade building as well. So in the due diligence of sitting down and doing some site visits, we really learned a lot that really helped the reconfiguration committee of students and staff that met pretty much monthly last year in taking a look at opening this school year, again, as a 6th grade building in the Peabody building and a 7th and 8th grade building in the Sanborn building. So that's what we've done, and it has also given us permission to really relook at the teaching and learning at the middle school, and we had an opportunity to bring in a brand new master schedule as well. for both buildings. As much as the community has really tried to rally around this notion of Concord Middle School being 2 buildings but 1 school, quite frankly, we were giving the students and the staff 2 different experiences, in both buildings being a 6 through 8 building. That also limited us in our master schedule planning, because certainly if the facilities were very different, what we couldn't do is offer one program of study in one building and not the other if both buildings, again, are a 6 through 8 building. Now, having a 6th grade building, a standalone, and a 7th and 8th grade building, we were able to implement 2 master schedules that are different from each other. And the way in which the 6th grade master schedule is different right now is offering up an intervention enrichment block for our 6th grade students in their entry into middle school. So all the 6th grade students started off in a course called Fundamentals, which the Director of Teaching and Learning partnered with the 6th grade teachers and really thought out a curriculum that really aligned itself to a whole child and really focused on an introduction to middle school, a 3-month introduction to middle school, everything from a slow introduction to their laptops and doing some digital literacy work and some digital citizen work. The core teachers were able to deliver that curriculum out because we do have in the 6th grade building, our core teachers are our teachers who are delivering the intervention and enrichment course offerings. So all 6th graders started off in this fundamentals course that ran from the start of September all the way through the end of November. It met 4 times 6, so students met in this class, and it really focused the students on how to do middle school and how to make that transition from maybe 2-3 teachers to 6 or 7 teachers. We really asked ourselves and challenged ourselves, what's hidden in the curriculum? What do we assume that students know, but in reality they don't? Around the fall, when that intervention class was happening, which was mostly or also focused on executive functioning, we were able to assess students through STARS, STAR reading, STAR math, and a pair holistic, which is a social and emotional screener. And it really gave us live data to place students in intervention enrichment classes that are happening now where we sit, which is 2nd trimester. We are progress monitoring those students in these intervention enrichment classes to see and measure their growth and to place them in 3rd trimester. So again, we have core teachers who are delivering interventions through their licensed content area. We still have special education that is offering more of a tier 3 or sometimes tier 2 level of intervention. But before a family or even a school might think of a special education assessment, we now have a master schedule that offers all these intervention blocks. We also have guidance counselors leading classes for the first time for our students who are assessed into a social and emotional group, which I think is just breaking that glass ceiling of, we have all this data through all these assessment tools, but too often schools don't know what to do with it. Just in this last week, of course, we've been really focused on keeping our eye on these students, who may have assessed into an at-risk level through all the assessment tools that we have. But quite frankly, I think the responsibility of a school should be more than just keeping an eye on them. What are we offering them? And for our 6th graders, and we're looking to bring this model up to the 7th and 8th grade building as well, is having them in front of a highly qualified educator or counselor to deliver these interventions. So I think, in reflection to where we are, we're the most excited about the master schedule and making that transition up to the 7th and 8th grade building as well. The sixth grade building and that love of that 11 to 12-year-old age group is alive. I invite you anytime you want to take a tour. Mr. Lucy's fifth grade group is coming up. The teachers and the staff are coming up, I believe, at the end of this week to do a tour. They've heard great things and they want to visit and they want to see it. We're going out to each elementary school to do coffees next week to share a little bit about the sixth grade experience and that transition into middle school. Sanborn right now is tight. The need for a new facility is very pronounced at Sanborn. We certainly shoehorned in some of the program of study. I do mention in order for the intervention enrichment blocks to really thrive, we quite frankly don't have enough space. So there's a tremendous amount of space sharing that's being done right now at Sanborn that the teachers and the staff over there would want me to comment on as well, just so the community recognizes the still ever-growing need of a new facility. Questions?
Let's acknowledge the folks who worked last summer, because we remember well what they did to make this physically possible. So I'm guessing, and I want your informed comment on this, that the guidance counselor's function and responsibility hasn't changed, but their role has, if they're doing some more direct teaching. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, and we have an adjustment counselor that the committee supported that hire, I think it was last year, who has been really paramount. The difference between a guidance counselor and adjustment counselor is adjustment counselor holds that license and is a little bit more focused on the social and emotional and the mental health piece. So she has been phenomenal in helping to deliver that curriculum. That is actually a part of the assessment tool of PAIR in, it's called HSA, I believe, a holistic assessment. And then we also have our social and emotional access program. And that lead teacher is also supporting our guidance counselor in the leading of that curriculum as well. I think once we get to where we want to be in delivering a lot more intervention in the social and emotional realm, then my guidance counselors are going to be tapped to really do a lot more preemptive, proactive work, which they're so excited to do. Right now in the 7th grade, we're still continuing, 7th and 8th grade, we're still continuing with the model of having lunch groups. And quite frankly, it's just too little time. It's socially charged. And I think the guidance counselors are also feeling a little like, that's not enough. So we have all that data that's available to our 6th grade teachers or available to our 7th and 8th grade teachers as well. It's just we're working our way towards a master schedule that will offer up intervention blocks in a time in their day. Because the research is also quite clear, they have to capture them in that 6 hours. And even those families who we are partnered with in delivering, some of the social and emotional and mental health support outside of school, some of these kids are just coming home and they're just, they're done, they're just so fatigued, so schools are tasked and really, in charge with doing a lot of this work, and I have to just thank the committee and the superintendent's office and the director of teaching and learning that we're offering up a master schedule that has time and capacity within it to focus on this important work.
Can you speak a little bit to PAIR and what visibility on a child it gives you now that wasn't available to us even a year or two ago? I think that's one of its main features, is it aggregates data in a very confidential, sensitive way so that very few people like you can see it and use it. Am I correct?
Yep.
What's more visible now that would be useful to a child?
Yeah. So the PAIR has really informed the middle school team in the importance of strength-based programming, especially when you tier students out in 3 tiers. So the dashboard that I have on my computer screen, after the student goes through the assessment, the students are placed in 3 different tiers. Tier 1 is, they didn't really screen in. Tier 2, and then a Tier 3. Tier 3 is where we go to automatically, and then, the student support team and RTI team has a conversation about, what interventions are already available for these students. And if there are none, then that's a pretty quick call to the family who have already given permission for us to screen, and to say again that we have available this class that is linked to the pair assessment, because pair people actually deliver a curriculum as well. And the curriculum is rolled out, focuses much on that screener that teases out and delivers to us their strengths. So if we have a student who is screened into pair needing a social and emotional assessment, intervention, we also get their strengths, whether or not they're assertive, whether or not they're leaders, whether or not, their resiliency actually might be strong, even though there might be a concern there in, let's say, something going on in that child's life. So it allows us to focus in this intervention class, or these intervention classes that are happening, on what are the strengths that these students have, with the model of grouping them together with just their deficits, and focusing on what they need. You're not promoting their strengths. And you're also allowed to, it gives permission for the students to be paired together, and for the students who, measured high with, like, say, resiliency, you pair those students with the students who, measured a bit lower, in their ability to be, gritty, or, try to work through some problems and conflicts themselves. So it's also one way that the Director of Student Services and I and the leadership team at the middle school is really focused on special education programming, and really looking at, when a student who might need, support or availability of our Access Social and Emotional program, we're also getting a better sense of, okay, what does this student excel in? Like right now we have a student who is helping to bring online a school store that is going to be open and available to sixth graders opposite their lunches in the sixth grade building. And this is a student who, again, just excels in this sort of way. And, we just, in the beginning of the year, we were struggling, and we were just focusing on, kind of the traditional model of, well, let's focus the supports on, the deficits, instead of saying, okay, here's what the student brings us in the day-to-day. How can we make sure that the student thrives in a program that's more non-traditional? So a lot of the pair professional development that the district gave to us really had us rethink how we're doing that tier of special education.
And the assets model that you're talking to, I imagine, makes it much more acceptable, much faster to students and parents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And what is that, just to follow up on that, this is fascinating. I love how you're kind of taking the old model and flipping on its head. What does that look like? In that example, when you say, we're going to take a student with high resiliency and one with less, and we're going to pair them, and they're in a class with a curriculum, what are they doing in that class? What does it look like day to day, and what are their assignments and activities?
Yep. So a lot of it is some social thinking, and there is a sense. There's about 12 students in one particular class that I did an observation of about last week, where they're talking through some scenarios that aren't necessarily scenarios from their own lives or scenarios that they just faced, but scenarios that the pair curriculum has, like, on paper. Like, what would you do if you were the student in this scenario? And it does get to a place of, a student reflect and say, well, what I did was, which is fine, but we were really trying to build, a schema and a shared experience through, a scenario that's on, like, a piece of paper. And I think, through the student who, may have measured high in resiliency, the teacher knows that. So she's really promoting that voice within the student and really trying to get that student to focus on, the same aged child in the scenario, that was on a bus, so that students can very easily take what is on paper and it's analogous to the playbook work that we're doing. We're really trying to equip these students, with a quick kind of, so that they instigate like a schema and like a shared experience and be like, it's what we talked about. It's happening, it's playing out right now, on the bus or in the locker room or in the lunchroom. So that's a quick snapshot.
That's great. That's really helpful. I have other questions. Do you have questions?
No, go.
I'm curious. So it's almost a similar question, but stepping back to what you're talking about, the fundamentals class. I love the idea of giving them those basic study skills at the beginning as you enter middle school. And what does that curriculum look like for those first 3 months? What kind of things are they actually working on? What kind of assignments?
Yep. So, I'll give you a very concrete. So all students, all sixth graders, received a passport and went through like different experiences in the class. And each core level teacher and a lot of the specials, were able to engage as well and be a part of this. So it really, it was a community building course, which was pretty neat, So for instance, when they went through the different milestones of, learning how to responsibly use their laptops and go through some digital literacy and citizenship work, the teachers would stamp their passport. It was really meant to be a class that was, low stress and really just ease them into middle school. I happened to walk by some fifth grade parent teachers just today, and they could not be more thrilled because, with intent, we went down to the fifth grade last year and said, this whole transition to middle school, like, that's not on you, that's on us, and allow them, that important year of fifth grade to still be in elementary for that entire year. Let them arrive to us and let us begin in this fundamentals class that transition to middle school and the expectations. So proud to say that on that teacher team that developed the curriculum for fundamentals were, I think, at least one seventh grade teacher, and I think I may have an eighth grade teacher on there as well. That course was not just designed for the sixth grade experience. It's designed for the 3 years. Which I think is just so important that all our sites are set on coming back together, in one building that is 6, 7, and 8. And that students in the sixth grade building, getting back to kind of the higher level reconfiguration, really build an identity that they're a Concord middle school student. Mm-hmm. I have not heard one time this year that I go to Peabody Middle School or I go to St. Paul Middle School. Mm-hmm. We reform that identity. And all the things that,
That's a pretty big change, a pretty ingrained habit.
The alumni, let's not go there.
Right.
They're still very proud of being, my wife is one of them. So, right. But I do want to remark that, that was one of the things that in our visits to the other communities that have a sixth grade building, you have to keep in mind to build that identity and make sure that, their willingness and their comfort of going over to the 7th and 8th grade building is there and present. And although you just saw about 9 8th graders, perform a scene from Mary Poppins, half that cast was 6th graders. Wow. And all of them, I think all of you know this, their rehearsals and their auditions and everything was at the Sanborn building. Mm-hmm. Our 6th graders were very thankful and grateful that, their comfort level of just jumping on those buses Now, mind you, the fact that all those buses go to Sanborn certainly makes it easier because they're not going to
Do that
forget.
drive every day.
They're not going to forget.
Have to go there anyway.
But their involvement, my student council is another great example. We have about 25, standing members, and half of them are sixth graders.
Wow.
Yeah, the eighth graders are shared some reflection on that the other day with me about how their voices are empowered, which is a good thing. With that said, comes kind of some concerns of having an all sixth grade building. And the fact that they went from kind of king of the hill in fifth grade, to a building that they own, to that transition to seven. So we are reestablishing our reconfiguration committee, and we have 5 meetings on the books where we're focusing on that 6th to 7th grade transition, which those communities that have an all 6th grade building said, do not lose sight of this transition. Because they come in awfully young. And that was probably one of the more important things that we received from the communities that we went out to visit.
That's terrific.
In terms of how we envision a 6th grade education and a sixth grade community within a middle school, so far I think it's the premise of many people that thinking is going to get transferred to a new building. Is there anything in your experience over the last year that would alter that in any large or small way?
No, not at all. Everything
That's
that
good
we
news.
can do.
Not at all.
Yeah, you really focus on, the good work that Mike Mastrillo and his team are leading with the 9th grade academy. A lot of
In fact, it's so good we replicated it.
When you really dive deep, and for those communities who have put this work, on their stage, which is their website, it almost seems like it's a standalone. It almost seems like it's on another campus because of that transition in is just so important. And I got tripped up a few times, in my research, of a 6th grade academy or a 9th grade academy. You can do all of it being under the same roof with the other grades.
Yeah.
And we attempt to.
That's great.
Some people remember that in the absence of a fundamentals course years ago, some students would pay a fee and go to the middle school for an intensive week, not a relaxed week, but an intensive week of self-advocacy, time management, study skills, the rigors of working a complex schedule. To finally have replaced this with what you're describing is extraordinary.
Yeah.
In all the best sense. So thank you.
Wait, I have one more question. I'm so curious on one thing. Sorry, one more. So the 6th graders have this fundamental class for 3 months, and then it transitions to basically that block you're saying, the schedule transitions to intervention enrichment. So they place it to something, and I'm just curious how that works. So every student places into something, but so basically everybody gets some type of intervention if they need it, or enrichment in some area, and they just placed as their, for instance, if it's enrichment, do they have some choice in it, or are they just placed into it?
Yep. So the enrichment does have choices to it. It's akin to elective choice. It's just the big difference I want to draw with the enrichment classes that are happening is in our own elective block, which is that model is still going on in the 7th and 8th grade, is our enrichment classes are being taught by the licensed content area teacher in that area.
Yeah.
And we are taking on the responsibility to be responsible for their growth, because that's what MCAS is all about. It's, even for a high-performing school like ours in a high-performing district, we're still tasked at the responsibility of growing those students. So, we've coined it response to intervention. We're measuring their growth as much as measuring the growth of the kids in intervention as well. The intervention kids also have choices, though. That choice, though, is a little bit more pointed towards their families, and I have to share that, being a school that is offering an intervention in the social and emotional kind of mental health area, took a phone call to every single one of those families. You know, it was an email at first, and that entire cohort of families, parents absolutely engaged in a conversation and was interested in what it looked like, why their child may have assessed in, will there be a stigma, you know, it's brand new. You know, all the questions were wholly appropriate. But, you know, being, you know, a middle school where we're just doing it in one grade, and it really hasn't been done to my knowledge in middle school, led to some parents, you know, being a little hesitant at first. You know, in fact, I think we had a total of 7 parents who did opt out. And kind of say, thank you, no thank you, which is fine. You know, and that conversation kind of ended in a place of, you know, okay, we're going to continue because you're granting us permission, you know, to monitor them and to assess them. And, you know, that partnership, that home to family, that home to school partnership of maybe the intervention is being given somewhere else.
And have you found, because everybody is doing something, that there is not that stigma that could have been attached, or is that, I mean, what's
So,
the
you know,
experience
sixth grade is just such an amazing age because, you know, all you have to do is just call it something fun.
Right.
And, you know, in that intervention and enrichment block, that is also so powerful in developing relationships between the students and the teachers. The students are looking at the teachers differently, you know, and looking at how to do math differently. You know, for some of our students, this is their second math class, either an enrichment or an intervention class. And because we're really trying to do school differently within this block, the students are seeing the teachers in a different way. So, you know, one of the challenges that we gave ourselves is the intervention and the enrichment class, the students shouldn't really know the difference, you know, in terms of just how we're doing it. You know, if you were to walk with me during this intervention enrichment block, you know, you're not going to be able to tell, you know, because I have an intervention class today, for example, in the gym, you know, and I have an enrichment class, you know, that might be doing a little bit more traditional work. And if you ask an 11-year-old which one they want to be at, you know, they want to be in that intervention class no matter what it's called and why they're in
It's
there.
in the gym.
Exactly.
That's great. Very good. Sorry, so many questions. Anything else?
There's probably a couple observations. I've been an advocate for this since I got here because I was in need when we implemented the 6th grade center. My son was in the 2nd class that went through it. So I had the opportunity to watch kids who had not been through it and who had been through it as they went through the remaining middle school and high school. And there was a difference. And there they have 6 now elementary schools going into that one space. And here we have 3. But I think to put an end to that Peabody Sandboard thing is phenomenal. To have all these kids in that space, working together, getting to know each other. The work that the district is doing, and I commend all of you, you know, between elementary and middle and high school and middle and Carlisle and, you know, that whole 8th to 9th grade transition. You know, these are the things we need to be doing to help these kids be able to perform at their best, understand what their best ought to be. And I really hope over the next couple of years that as you're doing this, you're thinking about, you know, how are we going to transition this to a single building and keep all the good parts of it. The kids won't have to take the bus to go to play practice. They won't have to take the bus to go to band practice. You know, there'll be some great pieces about that. But to be able to keep this group of kids sort of separate in that transition, I think is the benefits outweigh tremendously the concerns about them arriving in 7th grade a little young, once they're all in the same building, that'll probably be, that difference will be a little less. But it's exciting to see this, and what's really exciting is to see the work you're doing first year to, take this, the bull by the horns on this, and not just put them all together, but do something different with it. Think outside the box. There'll be fits and starts, and I'm sure you'll keep working on stuff because that's just what happens here. But that's pretty impressive. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Well, I'm looking forward to your input at our building committee design concept meeting very soon.
Yes, yes.
I assure you all of those conversations have already been into the feedback we've given to the design. Much about the 6th grade, but also rolling forward what's really successful in the 6th grade program that you heard the intervention blocks and the enrichment blocks, that needs to roll up into the 7th and 8th. And,
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're getting there.
Great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have a 6th grader there next year. And he's excited for it.
Yeah.
It's great.
I do want to honor the fact that, we still are, supporting the journey into middle school, for some that has been tough. And, I'll just name again the fact that, we haven't solved all the problems, and that transition can be tough. But going back to, just finding room, within that master schedule. Because quite frankly, in the conversations we have with the elementary schools and their counseling teams and the administration teams, we learn that some of those students that are, say, tier 2, in terms of at risk, they transition up to us and they can go right to tier 3. We've seen that before.
A lot,
and again, I just want to honor, the special education work that's being done in the district, and then again, that intervention enrichment block, because, we just now have, the availability to, place them, and to give them sorely needed intervention. And then it's just partnering with the family and just going to the intervention research of, okay, if this has been a problem, for the last couple of years, it's not going to be solved overnight. And it's through multiple trimesters of intervention. And that's where connecting, intervention availability and bringing it up to 7th and 8th grade is going to be pretty important as well.
This is terrific. Thank you so much for all you're doing on this. It's wonderful work. It's really neat to hear about it too, because we've heard that it's going great, and it's really neat to understand the details of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin.
I'm going to get some sleep. All right, and we are moving on to budget. So I'll just kind of kick this off with the framework that we've looked at the budget, we've heard all the details. We have all in the past discussed and decided we are supporting the budget as is, keeping it where it is. We are still 100,000 off of the Finance Committee guideline. I know that they are meeting and discussing budget and guidelines again this week. We just wanted to bring it up and primarily bring the question back to you, Lori and Jared, and ask, has anything changed? Has anything changed that would give you flexibility, movement to get us closer to that guideline?
No, we've built a tight budget and I think it's holding. The good news is special ed is stabilizing to some extent, so it's not changing in terms of what we need to add or subtract, but in terms of our ability to program for kids without those huge fluctuations. And I'm not saying there are none, but it's not feeling as unpredictable. So changing in a good way in that sense. But in terms of finding the 100,000 to come to the guideline number, it would have a programmatic impact. So I don't see that we're going to be able to do that.
Okay.
So I don't mean any disrespect as I ask the same question again in another way, because we do want to, just as you do, be as diligent as we can about this, or as aggressive in looking for how to manage costs and protect the core mission for kids. Are any of the savings projections so very conservative that we might get good news later? Or would you say those are really ones you can, for now, for today, hang your hat on and say they're as accurate as they
Yeah,
can
so the way we manage CPS and the front loading of the special education programs and the staffing required from that was to really even tap into some of the circuit breaker and build programs that would then offset the need for those funds to go to out-of-district placements. So that's actually got us further out in terms of conservative spending than we would be normally, which is why we're so hesitant to say we can have $100,000 to close this gap, because ending FY20 is certainly in the black, but it's in a tighter position than it might have been because we did that purposeful strategic spending work. And that's a one-time event. All that's built into the budget for FY21. But we aren't in a place where we're going to be able to show that we've got these savings to offset and can purchase things out of 20 to slow 21 down. That's just not the way this close of June is going to work. So, you know.
Is there I should know this, I don't, is there any budgetary impact if it becomes necessary to move students toward, help me out now, toward Alcott, who would otherwise be at Willard? Or is it the other way around?
Oh, with the Muse redistricting, it's a very small number of kids. It's a very small transportation cost, because we'll have to run another bus, but
So
very
it's-
minor.
All right, you can see I'm scratching.
Yeah, it built within a little bit of cushion we put into transportation for unknowns.
So a slight increase
very
to us,
small,
but nothing to
very
worry
small.
about.
Thank you.
Any other, expense concerns that have come up since then?
No, I mean, that's the good news. I think we're budgeting to what we need, and that's holding. So even in January, when we built a budget really 3 and 4 months ago, we haven't had surprises either way of great magnitude.
Yeah.
But it also means that the budget we built is the number we need, and we're still able to say that. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to tell us about it other than just?
No, I mean, I think we're living FY20 really pretty comfortably. The special ed piece is that one variable for this year, which is a one-time event. But otherwise, we are seeing across the district a team that is living to the budgets they're building, knowing what they budgeted for, and really making that work and really successfully work with high-performing programs. So I think we're getting in a nice routine here. Jared keeps saying, it's like, you just finished this budget, live the budget I built once,
Right.
I know, you say it all the time. Just get me to June so I can see how it played out. And reminding himself that he built it last October when he'd been here about 3 days.
Been here a couple of hours.
So it's just gonna get better and better, but it's feeling really comfortable. But at the same point, it's not feeling so comfortable that we're ready to say we put in 100,000 we don't need, so we just don't have that opportunity. Really asking for what we need, which hopefully was reflected in the high school budget where we came in under.
We came in under. We asked only for what we needed.
Jared, is there any activity at the state house, either the governor's budget or the Student Opportunity Act, that will impact 21?
I mean, it should, especially with the circuit breaker transportation reimbursement. So for next year, for transportation.
For the region.
For the, so we'll also get that for both CPS and special ed transportation. We pay right now 100%. The new formula over the next 4 years they're rolling out, we will get up to, is it going to be 100? It's going to be 100% by year 4. So next year we might get 25% of our transportation costs at CPS. Not 100% sure exactly what that will relate to yet. I'm actually going to a conference tomorrow. One of the agenda items is this, and I will certainly have more information after tomorrow.
Okay. And also, Case Collaborative, who runs our special ed transportation, Jay Sullivan's coming out from DESE to meet with all the business directors. So there's a lot of information we don't have yet in terms of how that'll play out.
Okay.
But that's basically projected into the budget as you've built it.
No, we don't have enough information to project
just-
it
this
what
is-
happened
okay.
after the budget,
Yes.
so
Right.
if we could say we knew for sure what the plan was gonna be in the formula,
We don't know.
we might be able to offer it, but it's
Right.
very much a work in progress,
whether
which is
it's
why
happening or
all
not.
these meetings are starting to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
And unlike the regional budget, the governor's budget numbers are, the revenue side is up, which at the high school is beneficial. But for the CPS side, it's a town benefit to chapter 70.
Right.
So, that may be part of our conversation, I don't know, as a finance committee when we go next week, but we don't have that money to offer, it's a
Right.
town revenue,
Yeah.
so.
We should take that into account somehow or another.
Yeah, just, I mean, those are good news numbers for
Finance
everybody on all
committee should take that.
sides, it's just how does that play into
Good
where
for
we
the
are.
town overall,
Yeah.
just where does it siphon?
Yeah.
It is confusing though, I gotta say.
It is confusing.
Yeah. Any other questions about the budget? Well, at this point, I'm going to assume we are all still on board with the budget as is. We're not making any changes or anything. Is everybody comfortable with the fact that we are not at the
We're
minus
comfortable with the
guideline?
service delivery that budget promises us, and we can't find, to date, any savings or revenues, then, speaking for myself, I'm very much in favor of it, yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean we don't scrutinize it every day, look for every opportunity.
Makes sense?
Yep.
I'm in agreement. Personally, I feel like it's a very carefully created budget, and that's what we need, and that's what we asked for, just like we did at the high school. So I'm fully behind it as is.
Well, and also I think it's important to note that there's clarity about the presentation, the way it looks to people who understand budgets and those who do not. It comes through pretty clearly where this money's targeted,
Right.
and how it reaches kids by virtue of the way you put it together and the way it conforms with DESI coding.
Definitely. Okay, good. Moving on then, we're gonna do a quick update on the CMS building project. So I'll just kind of go through, the building committee itself has not met since the last time we were all together and did an update. But a few smaller things have happened, and I'll just kind of review again where we are and what's coming up next, if that makes sense. So there were a couple of subcommittee meetings. The sustainability subcommittee met on the 30th, January 30th. It was very interesting. It was basically an overview of some sustainability options and the various paths that we could take. The sustainability expert from SMMA, as well as a consultant specifically in the area of passive house technology, or passive house, it's not technology, passive house building, both gave information on the various sustainability initiatives, different things that we could get certification for, and or plan for those types of building strategies, even if we didn't get certification. So everything from passive house, LEED silver, just zero net energy, what does that mean? And kind of an overview of what all of the various options are. The sustainability committee decided to kind of digest it, asked a lot of questions, and we'll be discussing it again to come up with more of a recommendation at their next meeting, which will be this Thursday the 6th after the full building committee meeting.
Who's the chair of the committee?
Matt Root.
Subcommittee?
The subcommittee,
Yes,
exactly.
okay.
Matt Root is chair of
Do
it.
you know who else is on it?
So on it is Kate Hanley,
Charlie
Parker,
Frank Cannon.
Frank Cannon, Lori,
I attend.
pretty much all of them.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, it's great, good discussion.
I have a question about
Yeah.
that aspect of the project. How are we approaching cost savings over time relative to expense into the building as capital expense in our consideration of sustainability?
So we are basically yet to get to that. It's something you have all said, we need to address that as we look at costs. We need to look at upfront costs versus operating costs. And we don't really have those in front of us yet, so we're not addressing them yet, but will.
And is the general tenor of the committee to take that into account and
It seems to be so far, I would say.
advocate for
Yeah.
the-
I think so.
And that's a tenor at this point, because we don't have enough in the way of concrete choices in front of us
Right.
with those accrued savings after initial investment to look at yet. So we're expecting it to get, I'm expecting it to get very complex, very, very difficult.
Yes.
You know, because
Yeah.
we say we will not pit educational needs against other needs. Well, we indeed will have a lot of asks and then have to accommodate, I think, to the budget constraints of the town, and it's going to be difficult.
Yeah,
But
it is.
I think we have a lot of faith in the wisdom around that table at the committee level.
Absolutely.
And the leadership. Nothing short of excellent so far, and I think we continue to be.
Yeah, definitely. So another on that same day, there was a meeting based on a bunch of feedback at our first public forum from, or regarding special education and inclusion and everything. There was a meeting also on the 30th inviting CPAC representatives and the design team to have a discussion specifically around special education needs, inclusion, making sure that we're planning for universal inclusion. And so a lot of feedback was taken in, which was very helpful, I think. The next building committee meeting is this coming Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m. as always here. Following that will be the next sustainability subcommittee meeting. Let's see, we will, at this building committee meeting, this is a probably short, I hesitate to say shorter, but likely shorter one, to look at our schedule, our building schedule, the whole project schedule for now. And milestones, when we're looking to have a special town meeting, and the steps before and after that, what happens. We may report back more on the first public forum and the themes that came out of that. The following morning, this coming Friday morning, is the League of Women Voters First Friday event focused on the building project. I think this is going to be a great event. Lori is one of 3 presenters or topics who are going to speak, so they have it broken down into 3 topics. Lori will get to speak about educational vision. I think this will be really helpful because we talk about all of the great things we can do in education with the new building, and a lot of people have no idea what that looks like. So it'll be great to be able to, for Lori to be able to give a feel for what does education look like going forward. The second topic will be scheduling. So Mike Carroll from Hill International, our OPM, will be there and we'll do an overview of the schedule as it's sketched out as of Thursday. And then Matt Root and Kate Hanley will be there to talk about sustainability initiatives. And I won't say set goals, we won't have agreed on actual sustainability goals yet then, but high level goals and directions and possibilities. And then there'll be questions. So I think that'll be a great forum there for discussion. It's being held, so that's this coming Friday at 9:30 a.m. And it's being held
9:15.
9:15.
This is when, look at the website, so.
It is 9:15.
9:15. Sorry, okay. 9:15. I think 9:15 is when the
Exactly.
coffee hour starts.
Yes.
So 9:15 a.m. at the West Concord Union Church. All of these events are usually the
Across from
Fountain
the
Library. That space has been getting too small, and they're expecting a good crowd for this. So across the street at the West Concord Union Church, down in the basement there. So that should be a good event. The building committee then convenes again on the 13th. That day we'll be looking at, and I forget the actual, but basically siting options on the Sanborn land. So we'll be looking at various concepts of the building could go here off in the corner or here in the middle of the land and the ramifications of each of those. And obviously there will be other things happening in here, but I'm hitting the high points of what we have. Our next public forum is February 27th. It will be at 7 p.m. We have not set a location yet, so I can't give all the details yet. We will be announcing it and publicizing it. But I think that'll be a really important one for anyone who wants to be involved in this process, share their input, share their feedback on what we've collected so far. What we'll be doing is sharing out the themes that we've collected so far in our initial meetings and forums and discussions with educators. sharing out some of that, sharing out some of what we've seen and learned at site visits to date, sharing a bit of where we are and what the schedule looks like, some basics, and then again, taking feedback. So I just want to highlight this because the entire building committee has stated many times that we are deeply committed to making sure that this is the community's building that we are designing, not just the committee's building. And this is one of the main opportunities for people to come and give input. Tell us what you want to see in this building and what you want it to do and look like and support. So that'll be a really important night. Of course,
What's the date of that again?
that's February 27th.
Thursday.
It's a Thursday evening.
What time?
7 o'clock, and we'll let you know where. And then from there, in early March, at the building committee meetings, we'll be looking at actual design concepts, which again will be informed by all of these forums and discussions and feedback sessions that we're having. So I would say the biggest theme that I want to highlight that we've been trying to get out there is that the input in this part of the process is critical. People have asked at various points, when should I come and share my ideas? When should I tell you what I think is important in a building? And now is a really good time to do that. The forum on the 27th is a good time. Emailing the building committee is also a way to do that. So our email is msbc, as in Middle School Building Committee, at msbc@concordps.org. So if people can't make the forum or just have thoughts that they want to share on what this community should have in a building, we want to hear those. And we hope that people will email the building committee that way. And that's kind of where we are. So high level, we want to hear the community's input and build based on that. And we're moving along really well. Court, what have I forgotten?
I don't think you've forgotten anything except one minor piece, and that is you mentioned the meeting a week from Thursday, the full committee, 7:30. That'll be followed by the design subcommittee.
Oh, yes.
Not to be confused by the design team. The design team is the design firm that we have contracted with and brought on board, as well as their expert consultants that are on board. So we're going to be coming together as that design team and that design subcommittee and looking at going forward how that design subcommittee can inform the larger committee, or indeed does it have a role at this point, because we've got so much talent at the full committee level.
Well, I think it definitely does, and I appreciate you pointing that out because that's something people might would be interested in coming to see. So that is also here at 9 a.m. presumably. Yeah, we're good at ending the building committee meetings at 9, so that will be the design subcommittee at 9 a.m. That's on the 13th. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions? No. Okay, good. That's our building committee update. Then, so relevant to that, we have in front of us, we need to vote on submitting a statement of interest to the 2020 MSBA building support process. So this has come up, obviously, as we all know. We've applied 3 years running now. We have not made it. But we need to decide whether we submit again this year, even though we're at the stage that we are now. I will just jump right in with my opinion that I think it is our due diligence to cross every T and dot every I and submit for this, even if it is just as a potential backup plan. I don't think submitting this is any statement at all about our commitment to what we're doing. We have full commitment to what we're doing, but I think it would be irresponsible not to do this, just for that reason. So that's my opinion on it.
And we have an equal commitment to see that this community has every option possible in front of it until it declares how it's going to move.
Yep,
because
exactly.
we can talk all we want about the building committee, but ultimately it's going to be citizens at town meeting and the ballot box who determine what they want to do. And so I think you said it very well. It's due diligence. It's our obligation to do it, even though it might look to some like an exercise. And some people, I think, are very pleased with the small additional cost to go it alone and the great latitude that it gives this town to put the final crown jewel in place for the schools that we've replaced over the last 20 years.
Yeah, we've heard that several times, haven't we? Yeah.
Clearly, if timing was different, it just doesn't work that way. So this is due in April, town meeting's gonna be in the fall, so you
Right.
don't get the choice. And we'll put it in April, and again, even if we don't withdraw it, we would be in that until the Christmas, Thanksgiving window.
Right.
And so it's more the submission process is timely now, and it has to go to the select board from here, so we did need to get it, in front of all of you for discussion. It just doesn't work that you could see how town meeting would go in the fall and then submit, you'd be a whole nother year out, so, it's just sort of keeping that premise of a backup plan, should we need it, which I'm hopeful we don't,
Hopefully
frankly,
not.
but, nor do we see any other signs that MSBA is suddenly gonna accept us. I don't think that feedback from them has changed at all either, so I just want to recognizing that this doesn't mean we suddenly think we're gonna get in.
Right.
It's more to just be sure we're part of the discussion, should we need to be.
The SOI a year ago didn't look unlike the one a year before that.
No.
This year with the reconfiguration, does that require a go-in to edit it?
Some, a lot of it's, challenge me on this, but a lot of it's structural nature of the
Right.
facilities, which didn't change at all.
Hasn't changed.
So we'll certainly note that we're using them differently, but.
Unless we had a jump in number of students.
No,
That
right,
impacts,
right. Right, so it's fairly status quo in terms of what they ask us. We've certainly outlined that we've made the change. I think we referenced that we were planning to a year ago. But it doesn't seem to have jeopardized, because the things they're assessing are things that are still a problem. So.
It's gonna bear some thinking about how to present this, if you're gonna be in the town meeting in the fall. So that, one, the history of our experience with MSBA is well known, because I personally don't anticipate, given where we are, that they're gonna all of a sudden decide that they would put money in here, given the other needs around the state. But that's gonna be a challenging part of the presentation, and both leading up to and then at town meeting. Because some people are gonna think, well, how come we're not waiting?
Sure.
And then what happens if we go through that process, pass it to town meeting, pass it to the ballot, and then, that 1% chance that MSBA comes through.
I don't think the chance
I
is
think once
that
they've
high.
funded it, they're not gonna, once we've funded it.
No, if we've funded it, they're not gonna approve anything. Yeah, they watch. No, they won't have to. I mean, that was a lot of the internal dialogue going on. The other option is not to put in, which becomes this other contrary discussion of how does that look? And it looks presumptuous, I think. So I think to not put in actually is also a message that would have to be explained, and I felt less comfortable with that message. So to your point, we're just gonna have to explain the rationale. And on the negative side, we have data to show how many schools put in and how many don't get selected. We have some great facts to go with why
Right,
this is not
you
a
should
short
last
thing.
year.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
I'll make a motion that the Concord School Committee vote to approve the CMS Statement of Interest 2020 as presented in the attachment.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We will submit that. Thank you for handling the logistics of it for us.
Yes.
So now we have to wait till 9:30, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, please.
I'll just note in our little
You can
running
wait till 9:30.
competition of who ends up meeting
You don't
really
need
efficiently,
Molly.
Molly, that it's only 7:46 p.m.
Let's not, yes.
But, you know.
Well, let's not gloat.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that. All right.
On that note,
Is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wow, thanks all.
That's great.
I know.